Thank you for coming today, everyone. This is our first official workshop, so we're all really excited for this. Today we'll be discussing value proposition. What is it? Why is it important? And how do you develop your own value proposition? Our workshop speaker today is Sneh Palmer. He is a former Georgia Tech grad, I believe CS grad too.
Yeah, sales marketing.
CS grad. He's now the CEO of Lucky Labs. They do really cool stuff with retail and commerce, so he can definitely give you a rundown on that. But I don't want to take up too much time, so Sneh, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Raj, for having me, and it's great to meet everyone. Obviously, it's great to see how Startup Exchange has evolved and like all the cool things you guys are working on, especially since I was a part of it like years ago. Happy to give a little bit of background on myself, what I do, and just go really get right into it and ask any questions while I'm saying the story or anything like that. Feel free to interrupt, and we can just go from there. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so let's see. I went to Georgia Tech. So I mean, I'm originally from Atlanta. Um, Moved around a lot around the southeast, but ended up going to high school in Augusta, Georgia, where the Masters happened. If anyone likes golf. Then went to Georgia Tech in about 2013 actually. Graduated early after a few years. After I realized I really wanted to go into startups and entrepreneurship. I didn't really actually know what entrepreneurship was until I got to Georgia Tech, which is funny. I always wanted to be a doctor. I'm sure a lot of people, I feel like a lot of people I knew went to Georgia Tech as like pre-med or biomedical engineering and wanted to go to med school. And then like eventually left after they realized like there's so many other opportunities out there. So like I realized like entrepreneurship was amazing. Love that. Worked with a few startups while I was in college. Joined Startup Exchange. Saw how passionate people were about what they were building, and that really basically light fire under me to be like, wow, like go find something you're really passionate about, interested in. And there's always something about like commerce and building brands I thought was so cool. So at the same time, Shopify was starting, and like we were starting to see this like a massive increase of D2C brands. Retailers were getting hurt, and then after I left, so I was wrapping up Georgia Tech, and I still like wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something in like the entrepreneurial realm. I was fortunate enough to meet a lot of great mentors, and one of them was Chris Klaus from like the Klaus Advanced Computing Building, obviously, I'm sure you guys know. And he was actually launching an accelerator in Tech Square called Cyber Launch. So I had the opportunity to go launch that with him. And I did that, helped invest in about 12 to 15 companies, helped scale those for about a year or so, and then left to go build my own company after I realized there was something missing in the commerce space. And really what that was my background had been in like consumer purchasing behavior through some of the brands I was working with. And I realized that consumers wanted products quicker, but they were unable to do that because supply chain was extremely slow. And also, online brands don't have the same infrastructure that physical retailers do. Physical retailers, on the other hand, were terrible. No one wanted to go shop there, but they had built this massive network and infrastructure for 3 decades. So we built this platform called Lucky that basically enables e-commerce brands to utilize retailers as distribution networks. So the way it works is as you as a consumer now can go buy directly from a brand, but then choose to pick up and eventually get it delivered from the closest retailer near you that has it in stock. And what's really interesting is like we're able to take D2C brands that have no physical infrastructure and then drive them into stores and be like, hey, like this is like a Lucky section. These are the brands. And the first category of brands we're working with is like health, wellness, fitness. So we have a bunch of gyms, PT chiro clinics, and sports retailers that we're working with. So there's a few out in LA right now, a couple in New York, and then a few in Atlanta as well. Me personally, I actually moved out of Atlanta about a year and a half ago now, I'd say. Came to New York, where I mean it was freezing. It was a great move intentionally because like obviously all the brands are up there, but obviously the pandemic hit, so still trying to enjoy that New York summer that everyone talks about. I'm actually in Miami right now for like a company retreat. So it's like so much warmer and stuff. Like I think New York's getting hammered with like 10 inches of snow. So thank God I'm out of there right now. But yeah, that's a little bit about me, my story. If anyone has any questions, let me know. I'd love to go into like more of the value proposition aspect of it and like really about like how to build a company platform that you know has a need and that consumers will want to use. Cool. So I will go into basically the value proposition aspect of it and how to build that. So I know Virajan mentioned there's a few teams. I think it's about 6 teams here. We'd love to hear from someone about like what they're building and like what they think their value proposition is, how they thought about it, and then I'll go into like what we did and like what kind of exercises you can do. But I think that'll be good to like get people engaged. So who wants to go?
Just feel free to unmute your mic and just tell us about yourself.
I can go. So my name's Braxton. I am the CEO of a startup called Cheers. Cheers is a new social network that is mental health positive. So we help people to have healthy friendships and healthy minds. Mm-hmm. Our value proposition is that we get friends together at local businesses to build deeper relationships.
That's awesome. Thanks, Braxton, for sharing that. No, I think that's really cool, actually, specifically in like an all digital world where like people are just like virtually meeting everyone. Like even before that, everyone was just engaging with like social media, like whether it's Snapchat, Instagram, like Clubhouse maybe, or TikTok. Meeting in person is so important. So like how did you like figure out that was your value proposition? Like how did you figure out like your customers wanted this or your users wanted this?
Yeah, so through research, we did over 100 interviews with students at Georgia Tech, and we found they didn't like social media that currently exists because of the negative impact that it has on their mental health as far as comparison, and it actually doesn't help them to build stronger relationships, but it's more of just like an information source. And so they want something that actually helps them to build stronger relationships, stronger friendships. And so the end result was we asked people, how do you build, like, think about the closest friendships you have now. And we asked them, how did those start? How did those build? Like, how did they get to the point where they are now? And we just did a lot of those interviews. And we found that the thing that builds relationships is shared experience and quality time. And so we ended up saying, okay, let's build a product that helps people, that takes like the social anxiety out of making plans with your friends, and really motivates them and encourages them and makes it easy and efficient to get together, build common experiences, and spend time together building that relationship.
No, that's great. So, I mean, a couple things I think you mentioned that I really liked was one, the 100 interviews that you did. I think that's like a good number, but obviously you want to continue doing that. So the best way, like, for example, to scale a value proposition is really talking to your end customers. Like, would they pay for this, right? It's like, does this create enough value for you to either change behavior of what you're using right now or add like a new application or new thing to your life that you're willing to pay for? And a lot of it's really done by talking to end consumers, but also it can be done by really seeing how they use your product as well. So like a couple of things that like a lot of great companies do, and like what we did as well was, one, we obviously like engage with end consumers. Like, hey, do you even want products quicker? Like, why do you care? Like, would you, when you buy things online, will you go pick it up in store near you? And there's 2 ways we did that. One was like asking end consumers that would be our users for these D2C brands, but then also using market research data and efficacy data. We know from last year, for example, Target's curbside pickup, where people buy online, pick up in store, went up 500%. Like, that's a great number and statistically to showcase on our end of like, hey, this is a proven value add. What we're doing is we're democratizing this technology for everyone outside of just the big box retailers. And that's kind of how we got to our value proposition over time. But I think one thing was also learning what type of customers are using our platform after we put it out there. We now see a lot more consumers that are in metropolitan cities that are, I mean, we have a specific category like health, wellness, fitness, but we realize people that are more active, but also like more in the outdoors workout scene are the users that are buying our methodology of picking up products near them. So it's really interesting to see like how your consumers are using your product. Do you have any data around like how people use it and like how would they pay for it? Like, how do you guys make money?
Yeah, so we have 363 users right now. As far as data on how people use it, like, I don't think we have enough data to come to any real conclusions yet. We haven't done any marketing. We're about to do our first marketing campaign. So I think once we get like 1,000 users or so at Georgia Tech using the product, we'll have a lot more data to refine that value proposition. But as far as how we make money, so I said like we get friends together at local businesses. So we answer the question of like where, when, what, and who, as far as making plans. And for the what piece or the where piece, we recommend local businesses to users. So that can be like restaurants, entertainment venues, sporting events, things like that. And so it's kind of it's a two-sided value proposition there.
No, that makes a ton of sense. Is this only in like Georgia? Like, how would you work in like cities that are like closed down? Like it was California, and, like things are like still not open, or is that like next steps? Like you're more focused on when they open up?
Yeah, we're more focused on when they open up. Like we think we want to be positioned because we believe there's going to be a social boom following the pandemic where everyone's like hungry to get out and be with their friends and like go to these social businesses. And so we want to position ourselves to like be ready to help businesses to get as much as they can out of that social boom.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, I agree with you. I think you should only focus on like Georgia and Florida and like places that are open right now. And I think one interesting thing about like value for you guys, like I think that's an honest answer. And I appreciate you being like, hey, we don't have enough data and we're still trying to figure that out. I think an important thing for you to realize is like also is like depending on how much value you add, that's how much you can like generate in terms of like per customer or per user or per business even. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. Like value proposition is always, everyone always thinks about it. It's like, hey, my product is going to make this customer's life easier. Whether it looks better, whether it's actually quicker, like whatever purpose it fills, which is great. I think it's amazing. But like a lot of people don't realize that like from value proposition, you actually determine how much money you can make, because you have to look at it from like how much better is your solution or how innovative is your solution than what's out there right now. And how much easier does it make it someone's current life? And like, if it's a drastic step, you can charge a shit ton. If it's a marginal benefit, then you can charge a marginal benefit, which is also fine. But then you have to work on your like go-to-market strategy and volume of customers. But it's really important to nail down like how valuable your product is. And I think one thing that a lot of brands, a lot of companies and startups do early on is like gather this thing called like MPS scores, like net promoter scores. It's pretty common, but it lets you determine like how willing a customer of yours is going to recommend it to someone else. If that's very high, then that's a very, very good reference point for you as a founder to realize like, okay, cool, this is an actually extremely valuable product. Because like it's one thing for somebody to see your marketing and use it. It's another for somebody to go out of their way and tell their friend or tell somebody else about using it. Because when you look at it from like a value proposition standpoint, if you have customers telling other people about it, then that's like the greatest flattery you can have, because they're willing to put their image and their personality and what people think of them online to get people to use your product. And they only do that if they know it's going to be good. Like no one's going to go tell somebody to use a product if they think they hate it, because that's going to ruin their reputation. They're only going to do it if they like it because it's only going to help their reputation. So it's always that's like a really good tool that I think, and actually I think it works well in your like system because you guys have an app. It's like either like having that pop up or like at the bottom of the screen, whenever someone's scrolling, to be able to like quickly respond with. I think you could probably gather that data pretty quickly. I think that'd be cool, good for you guys, because for you guys, since it's a social like type application, there's like a virality component to it that you can include.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that, and that's really that's a really good way to measure the value that we're bringing our customers, because especially the user side, like how many of our users are recommending the apps to their friends and stuff like that, and that's something that we do measure and we can measure, and so like. Yeah, I appreciate that, helping to define that value.
Yeah, definitely. One thing also, I think like it's an interesting growth hack. A few companies have done it well recently. You should have like a referral program where like users can refer their friends, but like only give everyone like 2 invites or 3 invites, because it creates a sense of like FOMO. And I think because they know they only have very limited invites, they'll only invite people they know that'll use the app. And I think that'll grow pretty quickly. Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what Clubhouse did. I saw Roger just mentioned, but yeah, it's a great methodology, and like they've been growing like crazy. If you guys don't have any invites, I'm sure someone has it that you guys know. But like sign up. But no, it's been pretty good, and I think they've scaled well. Yeah. Cool. So that was great. Thanks, Braxton, for that, for sharing stuff. Who else wants to go?
We can go.
Yeah. So we're HitSnag. So let's say you have like an idea, you're on the go, and you can't really bother to go open an app, or you're like really busy to go and open the app, or you have an idea that's like so pertinent, but you literally cannot, like, because your laptop might not even be open. We're like the universal notepad that also doubles as an assistant in your email. So you just send something to whatever app you want, and it creates like action items. So you say, hey, I want a card in Trello. It puts it in Trello. So it helps with like teams and stuff like that. And people usually are like busy in a way that it makes it inconvenient to go and open the apps and actually use the productivity software that they have, because it might be a little complicated for them. So we just make that simple to use through just emailing yourself, because people usually would email themselves information, but drawback is they have to go and eventually move that over later or actually turn it into the action items. So we just take that entire step out of the process.
Interesting. So it goes directly from email to like whatever, like let's just use a Trello example. Is that like the best use case? Like, let's say I want to add a task for myself. Like, hey, go pick up groceries on Saturday or something when I get back to New York, right? Like that's probably the first thing I have to do because I have no food right there right now. I can email myself right now and it would auto, like from that email, just generate like a card on Trello.
Yeah, basically that's exactly how it works. You just do like Trello@hitsnag.com, and then in the subject you would put like go get groceries, and then in the description you would put whatever you want, and it goes straight there.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. That makes a ton of sense. That's an interesting tool. I think I like it from like a productivity standpoint. I like basically like simplicity standpoint. What made you guys interested in that specific concept, and how are you guys determining value for your users right now?
So we email ourselves a boatload, and determining value-wise, we've grown a wait list of over 80 people. We've been doing frequent user interviews, not as much as Braxton. He's been killing it. So, I mean, we're a paid SaaS product. So we're starting at like $10 a month. We're going for the 2% early adopters who don't care about price high because then they think it's quality, but we're defining value by seeing what pain points, like what apps have the hardest like fatigue. So say it's like, it fatigues me to go and open, Trello, add a card on this board and do that because it has so many steps. And eventually we would want to be like, for teams, you could just attach like a do at HitSnag, and it will like be able to, do things from just your text. So just say, hey, I'm going to create an event, then you'll have to like go do the XYZ. And then it just puts that into an action item immediately on the platform you use most based off of just guessing.
Got it. I like the text idea. I think the text idea is interesting. It's like if I wanted to like, let's say for my team, I wanted to like throw an event or something like that, or like invite them all everything we want. Like I'd probably do it via email anyways. But if I just send an email and everyone got a text with the link and stuff, that could be interesting.
Yeah.
From a use case perspective. So you guys are basically targeting like the premium market from what it seems like, right? From like this is like you guys are starting off charging somebody, but like
we're trying to go for I'm sorry. No, go.
I was just saying basically because from what it seems like it's to basically simplify someone's life and like task management, and it's just basically better than what it currently exists. What exists right now that's close to what you guys do?
Zapier.
So basically the other big ones are like Zapier, IFTTT, and like the big issue with that is like it's a lot of self-serve, so like people have to set up these integrations like manually. So that's something that we just kind of want to get rid of.
We just want you to connect an app. Don't worry about us breaching data because you'll know when it's used or whenever we touch it. And basically just be able to take those ends and connect them and automate your cloud workflow. One big thing is particularly with CEOs, they might want to have a better way to, manage their time, and they're already using email all the time. I mean, email's not going away. Like you could use things like Slack and stuff like that, but usually you're back in email to, like either verify an email address or actually reach out and create an event. So we really want to do that. And like some people have like ADHD, and it's actually like, I think like a good percentage more likely that CEOs have it. And a subset of ADHD is like not being able to be organized. So in some areas it helps organize your life without like having to deal with those things.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. That's interesting. In terms of like value proposition, I get like the value out there. In terms of usability, I mean, obviously once you guys like continue growing, adding more features, like we'd love to check it out. But I think one thing like I like kind of see our guys that are similar to is like, Superhuman, like the mail client that a lot of CEOs use. So that people use that because of simplicity's sake. It's a $30 per month subscription for email. Like before that, like everyone was like, why would anyone pay for emails? Like
then Hey came along as well.
Exactly. But like now I use Superhuman. It's so much more efficient for me. It's like a text messaging email platform. So I get done with emails like 2 hours quicker every single day, basically. But I could see that being utilized well with your technology because like, hey, if I'm trying to create like we use Asana, and an Asana task for somebody.
Yeah.
If I email somebody, it auto creates that task and it assigns it to them automatically. So that can be kind of cool in terms of like simplicity wise versus like opening up a couple things or like, one thing I would say like probably the best use case, like Superhuman's trying to do this better, is like honestly adding calendar invites and stuff like that. If you can like read my calendar invites and like auto generate the link and stuff. I mean, there's no software that I know that does that well. Like I hate Calendly and stuff like that. I do it for like a few people, but like I feel like it's not worth it. Like go like schedule time on somebody, especially if it's like a high value person. I only sell Calendly to people that's like I honestly hope they don't schedule time with me. It's like it adds more friction to that scheduling aspect.
I know someone who does calendaring very well, and he'll probably like that I sent you to it. Look up Use Motion. It's a guy from YC. I know he does calendaring very well for your case as well. So
cool, I'll check it out for sure from like how it's done and stuff. But yeah, I agree. But I think that'd be a good example. Superhuman to be a good example for you guys to like work with. But I mean, they're just on top of Gmail, right? Which I'm assuming which is what you guys are starting with, anyways. And then just scaling from there.
Yeah, I mean, for us, like we're actually technically like any email
platform.
It's not like an extension on top of Gmail. It's literally like an email address that you send it to, and then you subscribe to have like access to that. Yeah, that's our MVP.
Oh, got it. And you just set up like which ones you want, whether it's like Trello, or Asana, etc.
Exactly.
You set up your company stuff. That makes sense. Which is interesting. Yeah, I mean, I like it. I think if you can like save someone's time, like especially if you're targeting like CEOs or high value people and charge you $10 a month for it, it could be useful. And based on like how it works, obviously you're able to technical glitches out, but that could be an interesting tool. No, I mean, I think the biggest value for that is like time saving, right? Like, was that like the biggest like cost, like I guess analysis you're doing? Like how much time do you save for somebody, and then based off that, how much you can charge someone?
It's like we just wanted to price it like we're just figuring out pricing, so we just decided to go with the solid $10 a month. But it's really being able to make sure you're organized before you even create the mess, so you avoid it in the first place. You can get things to the app you want and save time later and now than like rather opening it up and all that.
Yeah. So then, yeah, in that case, your biggest asset is like literally time management. It's like literally helping somebody save time, which is a big problem for a lot of people. So that's unique. Yeah, I would say for that, honestly, what would be interesting is like the way I would track value from your users for that way is like one, figure out how, and you probably guys can track this, how many emails they send per day to like hit that for your company and like to auto schedule like things. Like that volume is gonna be very, very important. And then also how complex are the problems or like stuff they're sending to your emails to like auto generate. Like if it's like complicated tasks and stuff, then that's like if your system can handle that, then that's more impressive. Yeah. So I think between like the volume and complexity of what they're sending, I think it's the way you guys will determine value to your users. But obviously then you can just ask like how much time do you save you per day or like per week and just go from there. And if you have those three things, you literally have exactly what Superhuman had when they scaled. Yeah, cool. Sure. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. All right, who wants to go next? I mean, I think this is probably the best way to do it. Just like, I'll just go down the line on everyone. Whoever wants to go next, feel go through. I can call someone out too if that makes it easier. All right, I guess I'll go with David. I like the lights that you have set up in the background. So.
I'm actually part of the exec team here, so I'm not one of the,
never mind.
Startups. Yeah. Thanks you. I like the lights also.
All right, who's next?
Aaron, would you be interested? And
sure, I had a feeling I was going to get called out. Yeah, so I am a co-founder. Let me turn on Slack. It's clicking at me a lot. I'm a co-founder of Sane Solutions. We map talent. So the narrow case that we've been looking at is we've mapped all of the chemists at R1 institutions in the United States, soon to be all R1 and R2 institutions. And we are pitching our services to departments that are hiring. And the value proposition that we have is that not only can we give you unique metrics using our database and our algorithm, but we can use those unique metrics to tell you who you're not choosing also. So you can take your choice in context of all of the other choices that exist and decide for yourself for those departments. You can find the best choice for your fit.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, so yeah, let me just make sure I got that right. You said it was a tool for hiring managers to determine who they're selecting and who they're not selecting?
Yeah, the focus is pretty narrow right now, but we may open it up.
How'd you guys want to come up with the concept, and what do you think your value proposition is to these hiring managers in terms of like, I mean, I know you mentioned like it gives you a complete overview of like what decision you made and what decision you didn't make, but like what's out there right now that shows them anything similar, and like how do you guys measure that?
So what you do right now if you're a hiring manager is you post a job, you talk to people that you know, you do a Google search, you have unlimited access to information. What we offer is all of the information in one place with metrics that you can actually use. So one question might be, you have 10 prospective candidates that you end up with. How do those candidates stack up to every other candidate that you could have? So literally every chemist in the US. And we think that that's a pretty powerful tool.
Mm-hmm. No, that's interesting. What, are you guys live? Like, who do you have users?
Yeah, we will. So we're demoing with the chemistry department this summer. So their next hiring cycle will pinpoint people for them based on their criteria.
Interesting. Yeah. So basically, like, it's like one, like simplifying their workload because like it's consolidating all of the information, but then afterwards, giving them some type of data around like the choices you make affect you this way, and the choices you didn't make affect you this way as well. Because like there's like you have all the samples there, and basically giving them basically best use case scenario, worst middle use case scenario, worst case scenario as well.
Yeah,
that makes a ton of sense. Why this problem? Like, how did you discover this problem in terms of like, do you have a background in like hiring?
No, but I do have a background in getting hired, and it's always annoying because one of the questions that you, as a person who are getting hired, I think have a lot is, how did they come up with their choice? Like, what did they decide based on? So like academia is pretty notorious for hiring based on biased opinions, let's say. You get a job because you know somebody who got a job before, and that's a pretty shitty way to hire.
No, for sure. But I definitely feel like that's probably more common than just in academia. I think that's like honestly everywhere. You get hired based on who you know, and it's just like the nature of the game of like how people get hired. But I agree. I think like if you can remove biases, I think it's important, right? Because like even like selection, like college admissions, stuff like that, there's like massive like legal proceedings now. Like there's bias there. So if you're able to remove bias and pick just the best opportunity, I mean, there's definitely something there. If you can like algorithmically do that without injecting your own bias. So like for you, I mean, I think it would be a combination of like saving time, but also determining, like creating more fair practices in hiring is like the way I would look at it. Is that about accurate in your sense?
Yeah, I definitely think that's applicable.
Mm-hmm. How do you intend to measure like success after you guys like go live with the chemist? Is it based on like the number of people they interview through your platform, hire through your platform, or usability, et cetera?
Yeah, I definitely think. I mean, there's, again, a variety of metrics you could use. Like you could say how many people get hired that might not have been hired otherwise. How many people got highlighted. So like a good example is R2 universities that aren't super big, like Georgia State. There's some good chemists at Georgia State that wouldn't normally be up for hiring at some place like Georgia Tech. And, you know, I think you could pretty easily see, if you have a database of every chemist, it's pretty easy to see who normally wouldn't get hired and who ends up getting hired.
Right. No, that makes sense. And why are you starting with a chemist background? I mean,
because I'm a chemist.
Because you're a chemist and you have that access to that. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I scraped like 8,000 chemists by hand, so that was that took a while.
That doesn't sound too fun. But hey, I mean, now it seems like you have. I mean, now you probably have the large data set of chemists out there, which is probably a useful tool for doing that. And I'm probably going adjacently to different categories of like basically like positions that have like a finite number of like individuals, right? Like chemists probably have 80,000, like you said, but like I'm sure there's other ones that have like limited numbers versus like if you look at IT, it's probably like 50 million people. to search through, which would like create a whole problem. But no, that's an interesting proposition in terms of like what you're doing and like how you're determining bias there. I think it could be useful for like universities, but also for I'm thinking of, I think college admissions could be interesting use case for that in terms of like value, especially if you can figure out how to like nail non-biased decision making. There's always like political stuff that's involved in like university like admissions, but this could be a good way to like retrofit that in terms of like reducing that, especially from a PR standpoint, but also like helping better individuals get accepted. But then no, that's interesting. That's awesome. I mean, yeah, can you have to do launch stuff? Obviously, once you have a little bit more data and users, you'll learn more about how to proceed forward. And one thing, I guess, like in this case, like I think we were one of the companies that I realized I haven't launched yet. What's really cool is like between like your value proposition pre-launch and post-launch, I think every company changes like what they're offering or in terms of how they're positioning it. So I think that's like a very interesting aspect to like learn. It's like how do different people view the platform, whether it's like the users or but also like the decision makers and who buys the product. Because I'm assuming your users, like the people that are in the admission faculty, are probably different from who's actually going to be paying for it, or is it the same in this case?
Well, I mean, that's one of my questions, I guess, going into this whole thing. So it seems like a lot of like this startup exchange is geared towards, I have a product, I want to make as much money as possible. Mm-hmm. And there's like a lot of other use cases than that. And when you're talking about like a value proposition, there's lots of value that's not necessarily like, this is going to make the most money, or this is going to save you the most time. And I guess one of the questions that I have going into Startup Exchange is, I haven't heard a lot about those other use cases. So like one of the executive team people was talking about a nonprofit startup that they're talking about. And I guess I'm sort of curious, when we're talking about value propositions, does that change in your view when it's a nonprofit?
No, but I think as a founder for the company, you have to decide whether you're going that route or not, right? I think it's based on each person. I think, it's perfectly fine to build a value proposition that's secure towards, like, value proposition doesn't equate directly to how much revenue you can generate, but value proposition does equate to how much you can charge someone for it, and like how much value you're providing. Like for example, like if there's different.
How is that different?
So wait, what?
How is that different?
Well, it's different because like your value proposition, you said it's better if it's a nonprofit, the value is like it's adding value to like these people, right? It's better for the world, but that doesn't mean like you have to like charge them ridiculous amounts. But the other aspect is, hey, if you have a value proposition that's basically like there's no competition, or you're providing so much value, you can charge more and you can generate a lot more revenue. It depends on like how you want to build a company. For you, is it more of a nonprofit type value proposition, or is it like is this like a business that you want to generate revenue, like raise capital from investors and VCs and scale it? Like, is this like a company you want to build and scale, or is it more so just like a technology that you want to get out there for just like making better, for like getting people that would be overlooked before hired?
I mean, I guess one of the questions I have in Startup Exchange in general, and I don't want to like take too much time, there's a lot of other people involved, but it's like, it's not clear to me what the options are. So it's hard to determine which way to pivot, if that makes sense. Because what I've heard mostly here and in general, like not just here, but CreateX and other places, is like I basically want to get investment, grow fast, sell high, get out, go on to the next entrepreneurial thing. And that's like a very different proposition from actually building something that works and I want it to work, right? Those are two different growth directions. Those are two very different things. And I haven't heard much about anything other than grow fast, sell high, get as much revenue as possible.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't get the last two things. I think if it's like a real like entrepreneur, like literally talking about like how like you're adding value, I think they'd be like, okay, how can you get out and launch quickly so you like test your product, because the first product you launch will not be the product that actually works. Second is like, if you actually want to create value for others, don't you want more people to use it? Like, it's not just for like one person. If you actually want to create value, you have to give it to a lot of people. Like a lot of people actually add value to them. But I think like CreateX and Startup Exchange, I think the reason I think why you may feel that way is really about, because like, I mean, it is geared towards a lot of like VC-based companies, right? It's really geared toward like, hey, how do you like scale quickly and like make this into a real business? What would you compare yourself to? You mentioned like you haven't really heard about companies that like basically just like create value for others and like that really don't take the traditional line you just mentioned, where like you raise a lot of capital, sell quickly, move forward. Like, what company are you thinking of that's similar to what you're trying to build?
I think so again, I'm not super familiar with the business side of things, but like a good example might be something that's a nonprofit like the Python like the programming language. Like there's a group of people that like there is money in it. They do get paid. There's like a whole infrastructure behind making sure it works, but it's not like if they tried to charge for it, it would break down. Nobody would use it anymore. It's not as useful as a charged product as a
for sure. I mean, that's compared to like OpenAI, right? Like basically like the same Altman's new project, like
right.
Elon Musk is for like basically the future of AI, because like they know like they want to be the forefronts of that. And yeah, I mean that's a use case as well, right? Like I mean, at the end of the day, like OpenAI will be like the most highly regarded open source machine learning and artificial intelligence like database out there. That's basically creating an ethics platform on top of like AI, which is extremely important, and I think it has to be there. Otherwise, you don't know what's going to happen. But I mean, they took that route knowingly what it's going to become. They know that's not like a VC-backed company that's going to be able to like generate ridiculous amount of revenue, and like that's okay because that's their mission right now. You have to determine from like you personally, is that your mission? Is your mission to build this platform that makes it easier to hire certain people starting off with chemists and reduce biases in the hiring process? And if that is, and that's what you got to focus on. Like you shouldn't take concepts like, hey, let me go raise money and build a company and sell it, because that's what everyone else is doing. Everyone needs to think about it from their own perspective. It's like, hey, what are you trying to build, and like how are you trying to think about it? And there's no wrong answer. It's really about like what do you think about it? Like how do you want to build a company? Yep. Hopefully that answered your question. If not, we're happy to like chat further about it.
Sure. Thanks.
Yeah, man. Cool. Who's next?
The last team, Banshee.
Yeah, sure. I could talk about Banshee. So basically, we're trying to make a women-centric app about for women in sports, whether they are fans or athletes, and like our value proposition, I guess, would probably be to provide that unique space where women just feel comfortable talking about what they're doing in sports or ask any questions they want without feeling uncomfortable, basically.
Yeah, could you read that last part? You like kind of cut out.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
No, basically, we just want to make women and like other minority genders feel comfortable discussing sports, because we notice that a lot of women, even though like they're kind of interested in sports, they don't really, go out of their way to learn more about it. And that's kind of the audience we're targeting.
No, that makes a ton of sense. How are you positioning this? Like, how are you making it more comfortable for minorities and women to talk about sports and like other things?
Oh, well, we're still in the customer discovery phase. So we're not. We've got like about like I have to say like 15 interviews done so far. So we're still building on that. But our initial idea, this came out of a hackathon. So we wanted to make the fan experience better, and so it's just like a heightened place it's like a social media platform, but everything sports is in like one app.
Got it. No, yeah, so it's more of like a community-driven platform, right? It's like really about like engaging with like individuals that wouldn't be as comfortable engaging elsewhere, but like making it more user-friendly and eventually scaling it out, I'm assuming.
Yes.
No, that's interesting. That's good. I mean, that's good that you've like had 15 interviews. What have you heard from your from users or people that would use the platform?
Okay, yeah. So since like we're mostly interviewing women and non-binary people, and frankly, most of the people, they all watch men's sports. So like a surprise, not a surprise, but it's just a fact that women's sports in general are not marketed. They're not the athletes aren't paid well, and I mean, those are like some of the findings. Probably bore you if I like list down all my findings, but yeah, that's like so far like one thing, I guess.
No, that makes a ton of sense. Yeah, I mean, I think so. You're saying all the people you interview, like the women and non-binary people, they all watch men's sport, but they don't watch women's sports?
Well, not that they all watch men's sport. It's just most of them. when they go out for a basketball game or a football game, or it's just that it looks like the men's games are nicely situated, like at the right times and everything, compared to like women's games, for example. There's
No,
multiple
100%.
reasons, and like yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no debate about that. I mean, like, there's this like, whole thing with like the NBA right now, like on how they like underfund the WNBA to like be able to get the same level of, like, not even the same level, but the an appropriate level of like representation slash like awareness about what their games and stuff like that. I think what's interesting about this is basically about how do you build that community, right? Like maybe it's not, you don't have to build a social media platform about people that can discuss sports, but maybe a community around like people that would want to watch alternative sports, like maybe just different sports, not even like about women, but just sports in general. And then, or maybe there's a thesis around like women's sports, and like creating that community where it's a safe place to talk about that. And I think like that's an interesting way that you're thinking about it, where it's like a social media app versus building a community on an existing complete app. But I mean, I see why you're doing it, because like it provides like a little bit more comfortability. I think you have to like definitely learn more. I think the value in this case, from a value proposition standpoint, I think it's providing a space for people to engage with sports that are talked about less by people that talk about it less, or that are not as comfortable. I think it's hard to determine whether like a new application is needed or whether you need to build a community around that on an app that exists for making it a safe place to talk about what's happening. At least from my perspective. I mean, I don't know the customer like interviews, how they went, right? But like, what have you heard? Have you just, like, for an example, has someone said like, hey, yeah, I would use an app, or like I would use a platform that lets me feel comfortable talking about my views on sports, coming from someone who doesn't feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, an example like that. There were quite a few people that I interviewed who talked about how they'd like rundowns of like specific plays or specific games, how they're played, like almost like a live commentary, but um, that's like on your phone, right? It's handy that you just look down and you're like, oh, so this is what happened, rather than kind of being clueless in a social setting. That would make them more comfortable and confident to be in like they go out for a party and I don't know, watch at home with friends.
No, that makes a ton of sense. Actually, one thing that came to thought is like what will be really cool is like, I don't know if this something like this exists, but like there's like an app that you can watch a sports game with your friends all simultaneously, and you all have your own chat on the side where you can talk about it while watching it. I think that could be kind of cool. Like everyone, it's like then everyone's plugged into the same game and are all commenting about it, and then people can come in and view it like a live stream, and then you can add people to that thread as well while you're watching that specific game. I think that can be kind of interesting because then you can get people engaged, or you can just keep it just for your own like community or your people that you're comfortable chatting with. In terms of like how you're making it easier for and like adding value to people about how they're able to engage with the content.
Yeah, I mean, we're just worried, like, if we did think about that, but it's just, there's a lot of, like, licensing roadblocks that kind of come through because there's a lot of people that do want the licensing rights of these games, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying, like, get the licensing rights for the game. I'm saying, like, just, like, get away, like, we can embed it. Like, you can do, like, a via web app, basically, just, like, on ESPN's website or, like, wherever somebody watches it, right? Or even, like, an extension, like, when somebody's using YouTube to watch highlights or something, and you can have it on the side, or like even like embedded Slack or something, and everyone could just go back and forth and communicate on some type of like a live messaging platform like that that's attached to it.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of the way I'm thinking about it, at least in terms of like what do you see like in terms of like the end goal for this type of platform?
The end goal.
Well, or like the North Star, like what's like where would you want to see this go?
We'd want it to be the app that women go to ask about honestly, like, well, sports obviously, and it'll be the go-to app for like the upcoming games, like I guess the March Madness and like the Tokyo Olympics. Like we were thinking of that route, but we still haven't gotten a prototype, so we're working on that.
Yeah, and I think like obviously like one, like getting that into the user's hands, right? Like at the end of the day, like there's all these like different things you can determine. Like value proposition you can figure out, but like in terms of usability and how people are engaging with you, you won't realize until you get your product into the customer's hand. And that's what I push everyone to get to. Like just like it doesn't have to be the best product. Get like your first early adopters who are like or your friends that you know like will like still use it even though like the product doesn't work as well. But like get that into their hands, and then they'll give you what the feedback you need to build and like actually make a product that people will pay for, or actually make a product that people like use that they don't know you. In the beginning, the only people that are going to use anyone's product in the beginning is people that you've already formed good relationships with. So let those people tell you how to continue building the product. So I would say like get it to market just quickly so you can learn from them and iterate around that.
All right. Thanks.
Yep, definitely true, Remy. Cool. Was that the last team, Braj, or was there like?
I think that's the last team. I mean, if anyone from exec wants to pitch their idea, I guess go for it. Now's your shot.
Wait, I actually just had a real quick question. So like, how do you know if your product serves like a deep enough customer pain? Because I know there's like varying, I guess, degrees of how much like your, I guess, varying degrees of like pain, customer pain. So like, how do you know if it's like enough?
Yeah,
like,
so that's a great question. So this is the way I would tackle that question. If let's say you have 10 users, let's say 100, you have 100 users of your thing. To see how valuable it is, you need to talk to the 10% of people that are using it the most and only focus on those 10%. Like make a product, and like Paul Graham from YC said this, like make a product that is like ridiculously beloved by a very niche group of people first. Like there's no way you're gonna hit the market. Like, so like figure that out. Find the people that love your product and just focus on them. And then if you create enough a product demand, well, if they start using it more and more frequently, and obviously depends on what it is, more and more frequently, or like swear by it, and then over time, you'll get to a point where now you'll be able to scale it past them, continue building it for more and more different groups of people, we'll get to mass market. And in terms of like actually adding, if you know it's valuable enough, just the best way is like, will they give up what they're using now to use your platform? Like I'll go back to the superhuman question. I don't use Gmail anymore because I use Superhuman because I pay for it. Like Gmail is free, but what I pay for it is worth me getting through my email quick enough and making it simpler for my life. That's how that's the best way. If people will transition from a competitor to your platform. Second, if they're use your product enough where if you ask them like, hey, would you pay for this? And they say yes. That's how you know like there's enough people, or it creates enough value for that somebody wants to use it. Because like somebody's literally willing to like put skin in the game. Like, yeah, I'll pay for it. Because like there's millions of people that'll be like, oh, I'll use this for free. Like, great. But like, will they pay for it? Is the real question. Like, is it enough to pay for it? Right. And put their name on it. And then obviously going back to the Mps scores, like, is it enough for somebody to refer someone else about it? Because I'll only tell my friends about good things because I want them to think highly of me. Now I'm not gonna tell them about like terrible products. It doesn't do any good for me. So I think I would use like a combination of those two metrics, but depending on what the product is. I mean, do you have a product that you're working on or something?
No, I was just curious. Like I've done like few like customer discovery interviews in the past, and like there like people have brought up various different problems and like pain points, but I just never know which one is like, I guess, a big enough pain to like solve.
Yeah. And that's a good thing. If you have a product that like solves enough problems or like a lot of pain points, like trying to figure out which one's the biggest one, and like which one to focus on the most with the initial launch. I think it's more of like a testing thing. You have to like try them all and then see which ones. And like and your customers or people, your users will naturally tell you. Like it's not like magic or like oh my god, I think it's this one. It's like no, people literally like they'll self-select the pain that they focus on the most. Especially if they're going to use something that's brand new, like they're going to tell you like, oh, I like this product because of X, and just like keep getting that feedback, and then just focus on people that want to use it as much as possible.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, man, for sure.
I have a question as well. So I know we have a kind of a diverse set of teams here. Some in research, some in consumer tech, and just different fields. But in terms of just general resources, do you have any resources that that are often used in industry to like work on value proposition. I know Aiden and or Yash talked about AppSy for customer feedback and GrowSurf. But is there anything that you would recommend or that you know of?
Yeah, I mean, this is more of like a business model use case, but I mean, I forgot what it's called. It's like the business model canvas. I think everyone uses in the beginning. I think like that helps put together stuff. Oh, I just saw somebody post. Yeah, he posted about it. I think like it adds clarity. I think that's the biggest thing. I think like value proposition is it's a vague thing until you write it down and then you hear about it. But like the biggest thing you need is clarity, because like there's a lot of great products out there that don't add enough value for me to like use it. But you need like clarity in terms of like how valuable it is and to who it's valuable to. So I would say like that's one thing. In terms of like other tools, I think it's really about like just like talking to your users at the end of the day. Like there is no better benefit, like no better way to see how valuable what you're building is, unless like you talk to somebody and them tell them like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like this has changed my life, or like this is saving me so much time or energy, resources, etc. Like that is like, that's the best and like honestly the most detailed way you can determine value proposition is like if you hear it from people that use it. And what you'll realize like in the beginning, like y'all are all super early on, is like everyone that's going to use your product right now is going to know you. Like no one's going to like Google this and find this like out of the blue and start using it. They're going to like try to like engage with you and be like, so like they're going to want it, and they're only going to use it because they like to use it. Like they'll probably, like a few people probably use it just because like you know them. They're like, oh, we want to be like mean to this person. Like shit, we'll use their product, but they'll probably hate it inside. But you'll get a few people that actually like the product and just like talk to them. They'll be like, why do you like our product so much? Like we see like your usability increasing. I would say measure your like use of product. There's a couple tools I think, I can't think of the name right now, but I'll shoot it over to Raj and whoever else is on that email thread with me, that tracks usage on software products as well. So like if it's a software product, then you can see how many times people sign in, how many times people like what they do when they're in the platform, etc. Which is a good way to do it. If it's a physical product, I would just talk to the end consumers that buy it. Like, hey, like how does this product feel like to you right now? Yeah, Mixpanel is pretty good as well. I just saw Yash mention that. Mixpanel is a pretty good tool to determine like feedback and stuff, and like also like usability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that. And I know we have 3 minutes, but if anyone else has any questions or if you have any closing remarks, Sneh, please feel free to ask or, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone has any questions, happy to answer that real quick. Otherwise, I can just end it real quick. Cool. Well, then, basically, I mean, what I'll say at the end of the day, like, listen, like, you're gonna hear from me, and you're gonna hear from like probably a bunch of other entrepreneurs. So like, it's like I think it was like a 6-week program or something that Verge sent up. But the most important thing that you're gonna get out of all of this is like, one, you'll hear about a little bit about our experiences and what we do and like who we work with and stuff like that. But it's really like every journey is different. Like every single one of you guys is going to go through a different process, a different way of like engaging with your customers, different route to success. What's most important is like some fundamental things, like the customer discovery aspect of it, like go to market, like determining how to get people to use your product, value proposition. And these fundamental things, it's like, it's all, like, a lot of it's like proven and done. No one has ever built the same company like in the same position you are. So everyone's like, hey, can somebody do this better than you? It's like, no, like no one's built the same company in the same circumstances that you're building this company, like ever in all of time. So there are things that you will have to learn that like only through experience you'll get to. But there's a lot of like fundamentals out there and basics that like are proven methodologies that you're just gonna like just use as a base and then build upon. And also I think the biggest thing is like use everyone around you. Like take advantage of them and tell her like, hey, like I don't want to, like I'm just tired. Like let's like talk later. Like just like bother everyone around you, like mentors, advisors, people like us. Feel free to reach out to me, Raj. Feel free to share my email with everyone if they want to chat, or if you want to do that with like all the speakers, however you want to do it. I'm sure everyone you brought on is more than happy to add value back. I'm sure everyone's has some type of connection to Georgia Tech. Like for me, like I was like the director of Startup Exchange for a while, so like I love helping back students, like giving value back. So feel free to reach out to all of us, like any connections, any thoughts, like we're all happy to share. So I would just like use everyone, like that's the biggest thing. And then also I would say get in the habit of getting like monthly updates. I don't know what stage everyone's at, but like I know at a certain stage, like especially when you get to your first accelerator or like start having some traction, I would say even do it before you get into an accelerator or anything like that. Just like add a list of people that you trust that like mentors, advisors, etc., whatever, that want to keep up to date with your progress, and add them to like an email list. And end of every month or beginning of every month, send them an update list, like what you did that month, like where you're at. It doesn't have to be crazy. Like it doesn't be like we like grew revenue X amount or like we did it. It's just like send them an update, like, hey, we added this great feature that one of our customers talked about, and like they love it now. Like that, it just gets people consistently hearing about you, and like then they'll share opportunities with you. The biggest thing you can do is like not tell anyone about what's happening and updating them, and they'll just be like, oh, that company probably just died. They probably just quit doing it. Because like no one has that time to like check in on other companies. Like, if you send update emails, they'll continually be grateful, and like I promise you, it's this thing that a lot of people don't do, but it's extremely helpful. Like extremely helpful. Mm-hmm.
That was awesome advice.
That's about it in terms of anything. Appreciate that, Viraj.
Thank you so much for coming. I think if we don't have... Oh, there was one last question, if you can stay a little bit over.
Yeah, what was the question?
What's been the easiest way to make users feel loved during customer discovery?
Wait, what was that?
What's been the easiest way to make users feel loved during customer discovery?
Oh, during customer discovery? Oh, that's a good question. I think let them know why you chose them. I think when you do customer discovery, it's still like, it's not just you're talking like random people. You're talking to certain people for certain reasons. Like they fit the demographic of users you want. But hey, like I saw like you're in this space. Like I would love to chat with you because of your background and expertise. Make them feel like you value their opinion. Always send follow-up thank you notes to them. Like email's fine. Physical ones are even better. But also offer like, hey, like would love to get you on our beta. We'll give it to you for free. We'd just love for you to test it out and use it. And then go from there. But like, yeah, I think that like that's the best way. Like just make sure like they're heard, they're listened to, and like you take care of your early customers because like they're the biggest ones. Especially even during customer discovery, you just like chat with them like, hey, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Like happy to help in any other way. Like offer to add value to them back, offer their time. A lot of people's times are valuable, but if they know it's for like an entrepreneur or they're just starting out, they're much more lenient and open to chatting. And make sure and like definitely read up on them if you like or if you have setup meetings, because like the worst is like when somebody like engages with you and just like doesn't know anything about you, and it's like you're just wasting my time as much as you're wasting yours, and that's upsetting.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think those are all the questions. Really appreciate your time. I know you're a really busy man.
No, I appreciate that, Viraj. Yeah, it was a great meeting every single one of you guys. Like, I mean, Viraj will share my email. Feel free to shoot me a note afterwards. Happy to connect. But yeah, I have to hop off, guys. Great meeting.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
I'll catch you later.
Thank you.
See you guys.
See you.
Bye.
And thank you, everyone. That's the conclusion of our first workshop. And I really hope you all enjoyed it and got something valuable from this. We'll have other speakers come on with different topics. So just be on the lookout for that. And just for some final updates, this week, please be sure to sync up with your mentors. Maybe try to get on a 30-minute call and talk about some of the updates, some of the things that you learned maybe from the workshop. Or just, just chat with them. I'm sure they would love to get to know your updates and assist you in any way. But yeah, if you all don't